Hey everybody, so I'm working on setting up my testing world here to actually be a little bit nicer. I figured while I worked on it I would go ahead and show the progress and kind of how I mentally work through setting up tests for various things. Now, we have a whole bunch of grass around here, which is getting really annoying. I started building a little pad here with, of course, the center being where I'm going to do most of my testing at. Of course, I'll put fences around it and stuff like that because I want to keep critters out that want to walk into the test range and stuff like that. So first we're going to kill the grass. Now, of course, I have an anti-plant missile. Most people think I added this for various other reasons. The main reason it was actually created is I got tired of grass and various other things. It then became the justification for actually implementing it, though, is when it comes to wartime type mods. It's kind of nice to have something that may just wipe out plant life in a certain radius. It should be triggering here in a second. It's probably not because there's probably a few other missiles running because unfortunately, I set off a microwave missile. I believe it caught everything on fire in the radius. I think this one dudded. So we go ahead and set a couple of these off. Make sure not to hit the grass. I think when stuff hits the grass, unfortunately, that's a bug and stuff. So go ahead and get rid of all the grass around us so that way we have a nice area to work in where we don't have to worry about there being grass grow. Now the anti-plant life actually does murder off the block in such a way that grass will not regrow back over it because it does check for a certain type of dirt in order to grow over. It may not fix modded stuff, but it'll do that. Now, I unfortunately don't have something I can just instantly fill this in. There are plans to do several warheads and missiles that are designed for, of course, filling in holes. For various reasons, like say your buddy has a bunker and you know where its entrance is, you could just say drop concrete missiles on there and it just blow concrete foam or something out. Or IC2 foam, for example, would be a great way that I could probably implement. But yeah, let's go ahead and we'll just fill it in by hand. Not really a much easier way to handle this. And let me fix my audio here. So let's get that down here. There we go. That way it's not as loud and you guys can hear me talk over it. So some of the things we're going to be testing is I did a tutorial video really quickly here, and I want to start working on some more. So that's what we're probably going to end up using this for, is to start working our way through the tutorial videos that need to be made. Because I got to be honest, I know a lot of the content I've been making is not user-friendly when it comes to understandability. It does work, but because there's not a lot of content out there that matches it in style, a lot of users have not been able to figure out how it functions. And that's unfortunate, and I kind of want to fix that by implementing guides and tutorials and various other things. So yeah, we're going to be working on that here over the next couple weeks. So it'll probably be like a tutorial video every couple days is how I'll try to squeeze it in. At least that's the plan. I don't know how this is actually going to end up working out for how we plan to do everything. Because after all, there's no solid plan. That's the reason why we don't like to give out ETAs. After all, I said like end of this month, or basically how it worked is I went end of March was the goal for getting updated to all the latest versions. That didn't happen. Then I went, you know what, the end of April we'll try to hit 1.8. That didn't happen. Now we're in May, and it's looking like the middle of May is going to be the 1.8 update deadline, and that may change as well because, well, complexity. Yeah, we're still getting some of those explosives going off because I can see the particle effects popping for them. See like white smoke you're seeing every so often? Yeah. It's probably the microwave missile going off. So that gives us, I mean, it's a bland workspace, but it's not horrible. It's a lot nicer looking, at least in my opinion, than having all that grass in the way. Because now we can sit here and we can build all of this stuff and we can start getting all of our other things going. Now, one of the things I'm planning on testing here in the next couple minutes is the workbench table that I've just converted over. And of course, I still got to do the warhead tables. So we did the warhead tables here and we got their rotation done earlier. And let me just go ahead and place these out so I can make sure their rotation still works. Really nice to have those tools finally rotating around. It makes it look much nicer, especially when you consider that you would probably build this out with a lot more other content. Now, of course, I don't have a lot of stuff set up here, but you can imagine, for example, you would have maybe some crafting tables. Might even have some other crafting tables in the middle here to make some kind of decor-esque type style thing here. And maybe even you would squeeze a couple chests in here. So maybe you throw some chests in here and just go like, okay, here's my warhead crafting parts, here's my engine crafting parts, and you have your table here. Maybe you'd even change it around and get rid of stuff on this side and put maybe that there, which unfortunately is not building correctly. This is the reason why I'm doing bug testing right now. Is this just got transferred to the JSON system, and during the process, I broke the multi-block and I broke a couple of things. I finally got the GUI working here a couple minutes ago, so I know the GUIs work. That was being broken by a very simple cast check that wasn't confirming that it was casting properly, therefore it was causing a null point exception. Luckily, the Volts engine code is built out so that way if you right-click a tile and it crashes while right-clicking, it'll block that action and prevent it from killing the game. So that way we still get that right-click cast through. And the multi-block code is working so nicely that I can click the multi-block right here, because this is actually a multi-block. And it, of course, is mimicking and behaving as if it's the exact system by which we're doing. But yeah, you could have a work table system like that. You could even have, say for example, double chest here. That would be your workroom, although that doesn't look exactly correct, but nobody's perfect. I mean, you could have a furnace here. Not too bad, I guess. Let me maybe break that right quick and put a hopper there. Kind of trying to do some gameplay thought process here as I'm trying to build up these systems. Hell, you can even do that and you block the tools out. So I don't really care if you block the tools on the renders because, I mean, the whole point of a lot of this stuff is just to be functional. So you would have both your tables here and you could ray through those and access them. And be working on your warheads and crafting them while then turning around and then smelting the materials to turn around and then make this stuff. Hell man, you can even have batteries over here. Like batteries. These aren't quite finished yet, but these will eventually become part of Basic Industries. Anyways, I guess we can toy around with this video here and kind of work on getting this thing running. Let's start off with the basics on it. And let's actually clear out everything over here so I've got workspaces. And skeletons are the reason why I need fences, but I don't have my fence mod enabled. Okay, so right now these place like this. Let's see if we get the rotation correct. Yeah, it looks like the rotation's working. Now, as I noted in a couple of my other videos, I am going to be working on placement code so that way if you place like this, it will actually place like that over there. That's just a really quick change by 90-degree thing. Now, the multi-block code is not handling properly. I think I know exactly why that's failing, so we're going to go ahead and close this. And we're going to go over here. Ignore the fact this is called missile.json because this is actually the missile work table. The reason why it's just called missile is if we go up to ICBM here and we go down to workshop, you got the missile workshop and then you got the warhead workshop. Or they're actually work tables, but we called it workshop because all the workshop content is going to be put in here. So there's going to be a lot more machines that are designed for building your missiles and fine-tuning them. There's going to be some pretty large ones because when you start to get up to the medium and large missiles, the medium is going to be like a 15 to 20 block tall missile, so you're not going to be able to craft it in a normal machine, and you're probably not going to craft it all as one tile either. It's probably going to be a multi-process crafting. The standard is even going to be hitting a multi-process crafting here eventually, where you can craft it in sections and then bring the sections together and then turning it into the final missile. The medium and large are going to be the same exact way. You're going to build the medium inside in pieces. Hold on, I actually have a way to do this. So this is kind of mirrored off of SpaceX's missile building process, or rocket. See if I can actually find one. I was watching a video the other day, so like right here's an example. You would be building the missiles laying down and you'd eventually bring them up to the top, but there's some better pictures here that I saw in a video a couple days ago. And it's right exactly what I'm going for. Yeah, see right here you would have a tube here and you would see these rails here. You'd kind of be building your medium-sized missiles because the medium-sized missile is going to be about the size of the SpaceX rockets. And then the large missile, which is actually the one that's going to be called the ICBM, is going to be the size of an Apollo rocket, which is going to be larger than a Statue of Liberty. So, well, in Minecraft terms, it'll probably max out at 60 just because the world is only 250 tall. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of stuff here. We'll probably even build some models of the SpaceX rockets. I think they're not copyrighted. So I think you're allowed to actually use their image in a game. Yeah, right here's a good chart. Yeah, the Saturn V is the biggest one we're going to be building. And this is about what the medium is going to be. So soyoids, which is, yeah, it's about the size of it. And then our standard is like half the size of that, I think. I have to go get the actual scales here, but I'm trying to find pictures of SpaceX's assembly line. Here we go. This is closer to what I'm talking about, because you'd be building circular sections of the rockets, and then you'd bring these sections together with a crane and you'd weld them onto place, and that's how you build your large rockets. It's going to get really complicated to build those mediums and larges. And it's intentional. It's actually intended that it would take you a week in game to build a large one, and it would take you a couple days in game to build the medium, and then your standard you could build in an hour, and your smalls you can build in a few minutes. That's actually the design goal right now, is to actually prevent you from building the large ones for a while, because their devastating warhead capability is capable of wiping out entire regions of the game. So if you dropped, say, a nuclear warhead from a large onto somebody's base, everything within a couple kilometers would just be gone. There would be nothing left, which is the reason why I want to make sure it takes a week in game to build these things. So material cost is going to be high and everything else. But getting back to testing, the reason our multi-blocks are failing is just this right here. You can't have two JSON entries with the same name, and I kind of neglected that when I was working on this. I wasn't paying attention, and we overrode it. Because when it goes to load, when JSON goes through, it doesn't tell you that there's two entries in here with the same name. It loads the first one, then stores it in a hash map, then it takes and loads the second one and stores it in the hash map again. When you have two entries with the same name that go to store in a hash map, it'll override the first entry and it will not warn you. And there's kind of, Google needs to fix their JSON system to have a warning system in there, or maybe it's already in there. There may be already a warning system in there. I just have to enable it. But we'll go ahead and debug, and that should fix our multi-block. And that's about it for this. We just got to check to make sure it can craft, and then we have to fix the autocrafters. The autocrafter would be the next thing to fix, because the autocrafter is identifying for tiles, and we got to tell it how to identify for nodes. For those of you who haven't been following in all the videos, a node is an object stored inside of a tile, and it's designed to not only be used for tiles, but we're going to plan to use it in entities and minecarts and all kinds of stuff. So the node system is not just there to migrate away from Minecraft code. It actually exists to serve a lot of purposes, and it's going to be really, really cool when we get it all done, because I can make armor, for example. And in your armor, I can say you have a missile warhead station in your armor, and you could craft warheads in your armor actively. And then say you had a missile building station built into that armor as well, in your, say, backpack, for example. These would be microized, of course, but the code doesn't have to be any different. So you'd put like a micro workstation, then maybe you have a nano assembly factory in there, maybe you have an ore processor in there. So you could be feeding your backpack raw materials, and it could be producing micro RPG rounds for your rocket launcher, so you can continuously fire your rocket launcher. And I can go farther and farther with this, and I only have to code one machine for this. I don't have to code 5 different types of machines. I don't have to code logic. I don't have to separate it out. I code a node object, and that node object, the only thing it cares at if you feed it back its data it requires. For the warhead stations, they don't care what location they are in the world. They only care what inventory they have. So if you give it the player's inventory, or you give it that backpack's inventory, it'll feed off that inventory and do its job. And that's for all the machines. So the launchers are the same way, although the launchers do care what location they're on. So there's going to be some limitations to the node system. There will be some stuff that you can and cannot put in your whatever you want to call it. So that did not fix it. That, or it did not trigger properly. So let's take a look at this. I mean, they look good. Ah! Okay, I see what's wrong. So we need to do something like this. And get rid of that, of course. So we're going to copy like this section, and we're going to go up and do that. We're not splitting these. So we've got 2 pause objects stored in one entry, but it's only going to read it's one of them at a time. So just another derp on the formatting. So that's separated, that's separated, that's separated, and that should work. So one of those new things with JSON is I've got no error detection, so if I could make a plugin for IntelliJ that would then read this file and go, hey, you have a formatting error in this file. But I haven't got around to doing that yet, because that's a lot of work. That's something that might take me 2 or 3 weeks to do by itself. There's a lot of tools like this we do want to develop, but unfortunately I'm only one guy, so I can only do so much work per week, and I've got to balance that between my college classwork, my freelancing projects, which is actually what pays most of my bills, and then doing the modding, which doesn't really bring in much money at all. Although I continue doing the modding part, so don't worry about that. I always get weirded out when people go, you mentioned money with modding. Are you just primarily focused on the money? It's like, that's not how that works. I take the money into account because I'm an adult and I have to do that, but that's not the reason we do it. Kind of more or less the modding is just, it's really fun. I got a video on explaining all this though, so I'm not going to go into it all the way, mainly because I'm a little tired here. It's at the end of the day, and my brain's having trouble concentrating. The only reason I'm making this video is because I'm bored, more or less, and I'm waiting on things to happen. Okay, so we need to remove this thing, so we need to fix this. It's be replace all. There we go, and it should work now. I'm getting the formatting all messed up for this. I need to actually go through and adjust this formatting though, and kind of see if I can make it function better. Because the multi-block is a little tedious to make. I mean, we've only got 2 entries in here, and we're using we're using like 19 lines for those, or that's about 18 lines. So we're using 18 lines just to define 2 blocks of data. Now, of course, I actually could remove these 2 lines right here and save a little bit of space because the system is designed to ignore certain values. But it's not the point though. A lot of space is going up for just a simple thing. It's one of the downsides of JSON. The upside is JSON lets you get away from a lot of the complexity and a lot of the tediousness of working on things. At the same time, it adds a little bit of tediousness and it adds a little bit of extra stuff you don't need. But the pros are so much far outweigh the cons. I mean, the ideal of I don't have to no longer code things. I no longer have to sit there and make a new class file and then recompile the game all the time. I could go and build an entire launcher using a JSON file while the game is probably running and reload it into the game, and the tile would appear and you can start working on it and start toying around with it. That's the goal. Right now we can't reload actively, but that is a feature that is coming pretty soon because having to reload the game every single time I make a change is annoying. I'd like to just go refresh non-dependent data. So non-dependent data would be, you'd be able to load this stuff in, but a dependent data would be, if we go all the way to the top, you wouldn't be able to reload the block class. This would be something that you would load once, and if it's already loaded, you can't load it again, but then maybe you could reload the material type. I could reflectively fix the material type. Right now, it's actually a final variable in the block, and you can't change it, but via reflection and other things, you actually can change those values. Of course, you wouldn't be able to change the mod, you wouldn't be able to change the ID or name. Actually, you'd be able to change the name. Tile entity, maybe. That would be a little interesting to fix. Opaqueness, you could reload. Listeners, you could change out. Some of the listeners would actually not let you change them, but that depends on if it's dependent or not. Dependent data would be things that require certain stuff to be iterated in a certain way. For example, textures require that the whole game reload the texture system in order to load new texture. Same with audio and everything else. But we could do that because if you actually go to, I believe, options and resource packs, you can reload resource packs. So that's an option. Anyways, our multi-blocks are working now. If we click them, they work. If we break oh, well, they're not working perfectly, I guess. Good thing is they reappear now. That's a bug we fixed a while ago, but the break events aren't being passed back. Let me go ahead and take a look at this. The break events are not actually working, probably because of the fact... Oh, we have an issue here. Where's that coming from? That's coming from here. That needs to be fixed here. That's going to cause a read-write bug. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's coming from the JSON conversion, which is what I'm working on right now. As I'm going through and I'm fixing a lot of this stuff. Let's go ahead and go to the top of the class file here and make sure we remove that tile inventory thing, which I think it actually got removed on its own. The system does auto-remove imports for you. That's good. It looks like it's gone. So the breaking issue is going to be part of the multi-block listener, and it probably has a lot to do with the same thing I had to do in one of the last videos. I had to fix the multi-block in order to do rotation. Because when you go to place a block, you don't have your rotation when you go to place it. The rotation is figured out after the block is placed. And it's usually figured out off the player's placement object, but we had to go through and we had to adjust it so that way it could grab its rotation before placement, which was not too difficult to do. It just involved doing a simple check here where we grab the entity at some point before the block is placed and we get the rotation. But I think the breaking block is having a similar issue where it can't determine the rotation properly. So we're going to go put a debug line here and hit break. And we're not even getting a callback properly whatsoever. That's unfortunate. Let's take a look at our tile autocrafter and make sure it is inheriting. It is multi-block wrapped, so that's not an issue. So let's go ahead and close a couple of these. And let's see if we can kind of brainstorm through this process. We are in debug mode, so that's good. But we're not getting the break block event. So let's do a control B on here and see where this is being called from. So let's do this. Yeah, that'll not be a horrible idea. Okay, we're not getting that. Okay, the reason we're not getting that is that's actually the host being broken. There is a different method for this. Right, here we go. So wait for that to reappear. I think it's like, yeah, there's a timer on it. Okay, we're not getting a debug call there either. So on multi-tile broken should give a call through. Surprised I didn't get a debug line there either. I think a lot of the multi-tile host code is not running properly. And it just could be because of small errors in the code system. Oh. It's because we're still applying multi-block code to this. Oh no, wait, no we're not. This is good. This is our wrapped tile. This is automatically generated by the system every time we load the game. Okay, so that's not the problem. Let's keep looking in our code here. I thought that might have been the actual auto tile here we were looking for. Okay, so we don't want any of the wrapped code. That's stuff we're not really looking at. We do want to take a look at the multi-block code here. So here's our code we kind of want to do because we're going remove by player, and we will put a break line here too to see if that works. So go ahead and load this up again just to kind of clear out any junk we may have. And while that's loading, I want to go here and check a few different things. Okay, that video finished uploading. So we do have one of the tutorial videos finally uploaded. That's where I said I was going to be making more of these tutorial videos. My plan is to go from start to finish on both ICBM and MyICBM classes to get a tutorial on how to do a little bit of everything. And hopefully get them scripted out and really nice audio-wise. I know the audio on a lot of my videos is not the most pristine because of the fact of the background noise, although I've finally figured out some of the settings in OBS that should be clearing up some of the background noise and should be making these videos much better clarity-wise. I have also figured out there's a gain filter on it now, so I couldn't increase the audio, so I might be able to go back to using one of my better quality microphones that was having problems with volume. And if that is the case, we could use that because that thing's got a pop filter and a noise filter on it, so there's physical devices to reduce noise, which would make the audio by default sound better, and then you apply the software noise filters on top of that, should make it even better quality-wise. I'll tweak those around, and then I'll start making tutorials. We'll call the first set of tutorials quick tutorials, so they'll just be tutorials that are not exactly the most highest grade. And then I either will go make scripted tutorials, which will be better quality, or I might go find somebody to make better tutorials. I like to get some, like one of the YouTubers who's actually good at that. I want to say Dire Wolf, but he's more of like a Let's Player at this point now. Although he still does owe me a review of one of my mods from, I don't even remember that anymore. Because he gave me that, he told me like, I'll do a review of the, I think it was assembly line he said he was going to do. And that was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I told him to hold off until I got it updated, and I never got it updated. So yeah, we got this going. Okay, so if we break that, and we cycle back over to here. So we got our on remove by player. So if we go down in here, of course this is going to grab our host. Is then going to go into the wrapped tile. The wrapped tile is then going to attempt to find a listener, because of course our node is not an instance of iTile node, so that won't help. It is then going to try to attempt to find a listener. It did find one on the base block. Okay. So we are getting the event call. It, however, is the layout is the problem. So we're going to put a debug line there so we know what the issue is now. So if we go over here, we can remove our other two debug lines because we know that this is functioning properly, which I didn't think was an issue to start with. Our issue is this here. This is having some kind of difficulty. And there's a few different things that's actually going on with this. One, we're actually not turning the destroy mode on. That's the only spot that's even out, I think. That's not too big of an issue. That's actually just going to, at some point, could prevent it from breaking properly. Or get too many calls through. So it's, the get multi-block layout check is not working. So, okay. So we're trying to check to see if the layout contains our current position. So we got a position of the tile entity. We're then subtracting our position from it. We're then going, okay, do you contain? Let's try this real quick. This might help. We have been having a lot of issues with rounding errors lately because of the fact that we converted our system to accommodate a few different things, and I believe that did create some rounding problems. Speaking of which, I need to check one thing here. I'm supposed to be expecting pizza here, and I expected it to show up by now. So I'm going to check to see what the time on the email they said was going to be. Yeah, look at that. It's like, yeah. So it's like, hey, it's supposed to be here. Actually, they don't even give us a delivery time expectation. Oh, it's supposed to be delivered at 7:58. It's to 8:13. Either it delivered already and nobody told me it's been delivered, or etc. Yeah, whatever. So let's go ahead and figure out what's going on here. So we got the get layout blocks. We could be having an issue here too, because it's like this sub. I'm gonna put a check line here because I think there's, well, actually no, that's not gonna work either. This system, I don't even know if it works properly. But let's take a look here. So we are flooring it, so we shouldn't be getting any rounding problems. We then are grabbing the layout. The layout is handled up here. So let's go ahead and work our way through the layout. Okay, we got our rotation. Okay, so let's check what our layout looks like. Contains two tiles, -1 and 1. Those are both on the z-axis, and I suspect this is the wrong direction. It's placing them right, though. So let's go through that. So I mean, this looks fine. I don't see any issues with this. Then, of course, our contains check fails. So let's put a debug line back on here again. Okay, so what are we looking at? We're looking at, oh yeah, I guess negative z's on both of these directions is fine. That's actually correct. So what are we looking at here? So we gotta check to see if the pause object is failing, which is the next check. Our pause object is way off. Okay, yeah, it's off by quite a bit. Okay. So we got our numbers here, -2766, -170z. And our location data is 31, 66, 100. That is so far off. How are we getting a 4 blocks away change on this? So this code isn't having any problems whatsoever. We're somewhere along the line we're getting the wrong values for our location. Oh, that's wrong. This should be up here. Okay. Hit play, remove this. I'm gonna have to close the game and restart it. Of course, I have to hit play mode or it's not gonna run. So the injective location is wrong, so I have to go find the prefab for this. So if we hit Control B on here, I should be able to find it. Okay, here we go. So this needs to be up here. So for an instance of iBlock listener, we need to inject the location, and then we need to run our code and stuff. It seems to be a repeat issue. Actually, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's not. That's good. Okay, the rest of it's good. So we just need to run a clean build, and then it should fix itself. Okay. Okay, it's still compiling. It does take a while to compile like the full workspace. I probably could have did a project build and it would have did the same result though. Okay, there we go. And then we just hit run dev mode.
Hey, wake up.
Oh, I got prodded on TeamSpeak here. So I can make this here quick here is I may have to make a phone call to figure out where my pizza ended up. My luck, the delivery driver got lost. Well, that's like 20 minutes of lost. The sad thing is, like, if I order from a company like Papa John's, they'll be like, here, it'll take 40 minutes for a delivery pizza, and then it'll be there in 23 minutes, so like half the time. And then you go to someplace like Jets here, and it's like, here, it'll be there in like 50 minutes, and then it takes like an hour. And this isn't like abnormal for them to be late. It's something they've done a couple times. I got a text. Hurry this up, I guess. It's the first time I've actually had issues with the multi-box not working appropriately. There we go. It broke. It didn't drop though, which I actually think it's supposed to happen. Because you're in creative mode and it's not supposed to drop. It's working now. Cool. That's been fixed, so we'll get back to more of these videos here later.